Hello, hello. Today we are going to be going through what your killer main says about you. Now, this is just a small disclaimer. These are only stereotypes and they aren't going to hurt you. So with that out of the way, let's begin. If you main Trapper, you either do not fear a god anymore or you're a fresh baby killer with no idea what you're doing. I mean, seriously, there's a huge disparity of skill on this killer. But regardless of skill, you do have some mighty heavy balls for playing Trapper. I used to think that people who mained Wraith, pre-Lightburn nerf, seriously had the strongest mental fortitude of any player. But post-Lightburn nerf, they've actually started their villain arc, and I'm fairly certain most of the games I play against a race, they are the sweatiest, sluggiest, tunneliest, campiest players I ever play against. If you main Hillbilly, I'm going to give you a respectful handshake and a crisp high five, because you're probably one of the only killers that is fair to play against and as. And I do think Billy players create a healthy and respectable environment within the game. If you main Nurse, I'm sorry to say, but you are in due time for a grass touching and a shower. I'm certain that most Nurse mains could probably compete in comp tournaments, but unlike comp players, they actually don't have the mental capacity to actually last. And they'd have to probably write a twit longer about how Nurse is actually very underpowered and needs buffs. Let's be honest, if you main Myers, you probably don't care about winning the match. You're really just about playing his ridiculous add-ons and getting some funny reactions out of people. Safe to say, I actually don't think Hag players exist, so I guess if you're a Hag main, good on you. I think you can get two types of Doctor players. On one hand, you can have the incredibly toxic and BMing Doctor, the one that kind of hits you on the hook. And on the other hand, you have the absolute gods of Doctor who have gotten the shock and loop timings down to a T. If you main Huntress, I'm sorry to say, you're just a gamer. You enjoy going for those difficult or creative plays, and sometimes get a little upsetty spaghetti about losing, but it's understandable. Yeah, honestly, I don't need to say much about this guy. The reputation of this killer will forever be known as the embodiment of tunneling, slugging, camping, toxic, and the guardian of the basement. Honestly, probably in a similar boat with Hag. Where are the Freddy players? I mean, every once in a blue moon you get a Freddy player, but they just telegraph all their plays and don't really get creative with it. Booping the Snoot used to be a cute interaction between Survivor and Killer, but as of late it's kind of become a dead interaction. If you do main Pig though, you probably have an above average IQ. That or you're just faking it till you make it. If you main Clown, expect to receive some hate from literally everybody because I'm pretty sure everyone has a discernful fear of clowns. That and most people actually don't know how to play against a clown. Spirit players are very similar to Nurse players, as they share the same ego and try-hard mentality. The only difference is that Spirit players are just a little bit rarer, but they still have the same ego all the less. You can always kind of tell what type of Legion you're facing based on what they wear. Usually the bunny Legions are pretty fun-loving Legion players, whereas the angsty artist cosmetic Legions are a bit more of a sweatlord. Legion players just don't run any gen defense perks either. They typically always run just chase perks. And I can't blame them because, you know, Legion already is a very dominant chase killer. However, when it does come to Sweatlords, Plague players are at the top of the list. I guess from a Survivor point of view, they're actually the most annoying killers to face, and I think that's partly because her power is really good to shut down a chase. I think like Legion, Ghostface players depend on what mask they wear. The red or the shiny mask usually signifies an annoying match incoming, while the what's up or classic masks tend to be a bit more laid back and fun. However, I do think that most Ghostface players do have head trauma from all the pallets dropped on their heads. Demo players are actually really rare, and for obvious reasons, because it always feels like we're playing against a brand new killer whenever you face a Demogorgon. If you main Oni, you're probably really chill. Honestly, there's not much to say because, you know, you're not really toxic, you're pretty decent, you know. I think Deathslinger players can vary from ones that can miss all of their shots to then just hitting the most insane threading the needle shot they can possibly ever hit. I think Pyramid Head players are known for tunneling, and it's only because they get rewarded for it by their kit. But I haven't seen a Pyramid Head player in Yonks. I'm pretty certain you can throw Blight players into the same boat as Nurse and Spirit players because they are incredibly toxic and sweaty. It just seems that like every single Blight player I come across is just playing for a comp game or something because they just straight tunnel someone out at 5 gens. You can hate me if you want, but I hate Twins players. I think they are the scum of the earth because they literally only play for slugs and it's just the most annoying shit to deal with. I think if you play Trickster, you either are really good at aiming or you just enjoy the sounds of downing a survivor with your knife flurry. If you play Nemesis, you probably have some shared emotional trauma watching your zombies come to so many near-miss hits with survivors as they run past the loop and you're forced to just look at them, miss, and block your entire pathway. I feel like that's very relatable. I think Pinhead players are actually one of the funnier killers to play against, just because it's just so strange seeing just a very tall, slender man running around, nodding his little bald head. However, I do think that most solo queue survivors do suffer a bit more against him, especially with the box. I don't really think artist players really have a stereotype, really. I don't hardly ever see them. I think people who play as Sadako or the Onryo are actually pretty chill. I think they're 9 times out of 10 not in it for a very sweaty game, but they just want to have some fun sneaking up on people. I also do think it's a fun interaction running away from someone who is chasing you and is going to stare you to death. I think by nature, Dredge players are actually not sweat lords, but they're very skilled at their craft, and that craft is killing you. But I do agree that grabbing a survivor out of a locker is probably one of the highest dopamine things you can do on Dredge. If you main Wesker, you're a Chad. I think playing as or against him is fun either way for both parties. I think people that main Knight are different to people who play Knight. I think people who play Knight play him in a very disgusting kind of way where the stereotype of the 3-genning Knight is still very prominent. But I think people who main Knight actually play him in a very fun way, basically using him for good chase potential. Yeah, you know, all Skull Merchant players can burn in hell for all I care. I could not give a single flying fuck. I swear I start to develop wrinkles anytime I start the game and I hear the Skull Merchant music playing. Honestly, I think that Singularity players are really cool people. Even though they are a rare kind of killer to play against, I still think any game that I go against them, they're pretty chill, you know? It's pretty respectful on all ends. I think if you play Xenomorph, you're probably just looking to play demo, but rebranded. I think there's not much really else to say, apart from learning to use your power correctly. I think if you play Chucky, you're literally just a high-octane junkie who loves the thrill of a chase. And typically, you know, you're probably an ex-Billy or ex-Oni player. I think if you play Unknown, you go into the match thinking that you're going to hit some insane shots, but you're just going to end up camping with your clones instead, as it's typically how the match plays out in front of you. I guess if you main Vecna, the Lich, you're just like D&D. I don't know, it's a very new killer, don't know what to say. And that's what your killer main says about you. Once again, these are all stereotypes, so please, if any of these offended you, I don't really care. But thank you for watching to the end. Like and subscribe for more epic juicer content.